Hello and welcome to What the Faux Travel Podcast with Nick and Amy. This is a mini episode about long-term travel, 8 months in.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. Like Amy said, this mini episode is about long-term travel and this is part 2. We first did a long-term travel episode about 2 or 3 months into our trip. Now we're 8 months in. We're kind of at the halfway mark now. So the idea of this episode is to update you guys. Maybe we've changed our minds about certain things we said before. Just letting you know how it's going and how we are adapting to our ongoing travels.
Yeah, because last time we recorded our first episode about long-term travel, you're right, 2.5 months in, we were in Turkey. And now we're in South America, so completely different continents, completely different countries. So, you know, things change.
Yeah, and a lot has happened. One of the things we're going to be talking about, again, very honestly, is our budget and how we're doing. You know, are we doing all right? Are we not doing all right? This might give you a clue. Have you guys ever had to rip a wet wipe in half? Well, we have. That shows you how much sometimes we can be struggling for, you know, little luxuries. But actually, talking about wet wipes, can I tell you something, Amy?
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about you. Got a bit of a funny face on.
Well, you know, this is going to be nothing new to you. You know this. But I'm going to share something with everyone. We all know that I'm too honest on this show. I've been talking about my credit card debt before. And so, wet wipes. I like to have wet wipes because, now this is the most natural thing in the world to me. This is really normal, but other people will think this is weird. When I go to the toilet to do a poo, I always, obviously I use paper, but then I always have to finish with a wet wipe. And I can't understand why people don't do this more, because if you had a bit of poo on your hand and you just wiped it with a bit of dry tissue paper, would you be happy with that?
Well, no.
You'd wash it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'd want to use some hardcore soap.
Yeah, and if you can't get into a shower or a bath, a wet wipe would do the job better than toilet paper would. So I don't get why people wouldn't then use a wet wipe. So anyway, that's what I do. You might think I'm weird. There'll be people listening thinking, yes, I do exactly the same thing. I'm with you. You guys are normal and hygienic. But the other day I went to go, I got a wet wipe and you're like, what are you doing, Nick? I was like, I need this wet wipe. So you said, well, no, we're running low. Split it in half. Desperate times.
Do you know what? Since travelling, I've realised how expensive wet wipes are. Like,
how expensive everything is.
Well, toiletries more than anything is something that really ruins our budget. And like, yeah, because we are, like, I used to be proper OCD about, like, even now I won't touch doors. Certainly wouldn't touch a door from a bathroom. You know, I've got the knack with, like, opening the door with my feet, kicking it open.
Flushing the toilet with your feet.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I will not touch that shit, literally. So yeah, so we're quite clean people, so toiletries are a big thing for us, but yeah, they do ruin our budget, don't they? And we need to start being more clever. And so I thought, hey, you know, there's 25 wet wipes per pack, why not make it 50 by cutting them in half?
Genius. But you're right, toiletries in particular are quite expensive. And one of my friends, Brad Wells, who's actually a regular listener and a patron,
yes, Brad,
legend, he ran a marathon, and like, congrats to him. It's amazing that he did that. And he sent a message to everyone and just said, you know, can you sponsor me?
And you were like, no.
Well, no, I replied. I said, like, it's amazing what you're doing. I normally would sponsor you, but like, me and Amy right now, you know, buying a tube of toothpaste is a big decision for us. So
can I just clarify, we always brush our teeth at least once a day.
Yeah.
Normally twice, but at least once
a week. Yeah. So I said to him, I really would, but even £1, we need it. So don't be so selfish, Brad. Running a marathon for the glory.
It's not about the charity, it's all about you, isn't it?
Anyway, this is one example of how traveling can really change your mindset about things, but let's get into it.
Yeah, and just before we do get into it, I just want to say,
let's get into it now.
Oh god, you've lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
If you're listening to this and you haven't heard episode number 1 about long-term travel, which happened last series, so series 3, then I would recommend going back to that, because like Nick said, we've been very open about our budget, what we're spending, and credit card debt, and how you used to give to cancer research and you had to stop that so we could selfishly come traveling.
Don't ruin it. It's all in the first episode.
It's all in there.
Yeah, but
so
for
go
this
back.
For this one to make sense, yeah, like Amy said, you would have had to listen to the first one.
Yeah. So we are going to structure this the same way we did the other. So we're going to have different sections. So we're going to have budget, accommodation, pace of travel, homesickness, and tips and hacks as well, to give you the best advice. If this is something you want to do, if you want to do the same as us, you know, pack up your bag, quit your job, sell your apartment, sell your car, just have a bag on your back and travel the world, which I would highly recommend, then this is the podcast for you.
Absolutely. But for people that have heard the last one, we're not going to be repeating ourselves. This is all brand new stuff.
Brand new that is brand new information. What's that from?
Friends.
Oh yeah, Phoebe.
All of the quotes we say are from Friends.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we're going to start with accommodation. Nick, have we changed our accommodation approach?
Well, not really. We've decided that we need to couch surf more. We worked out a few weeks ago, maybe about 40% of the trip would couch surf, which is good going because there are some places you can't couch surf. Like where we are now in Ecuador, we're in this little town called Baños, very touristy place, hard to find locals that take in couch surfers. But we are still staying in like cheap hotels and hostels, private room whenever we can, sometimes shared bathroom, fine. Like it can be a bit annoying, but it's fine, no problem. And again, in very touristy places, like in San Pedro de Atacama in Chile, we stayed in a hostel. We were with a friend as well, so it was more of a social thing. So, and I quite enjoyed that, actually. But traveling as a couple really is best to have your own private room. And again, we've said before, sometimes that can be the same price as getting individual beds if you're two people.
I'd agree. We have kind of kept everything the same. So we were couch surfing for 40% of the time. We thought we needed to bump that up because we looked through our budget and it wasn't the best. So we were trying to stick to £30 a day. That's Great British pounds for both of us. So that's accommodation, food, and activities we're doing for the day. Now, we were doing okay, I think. And then once we got into South America and we were with people we'd met before because we'd been to Brazil before, I think we kind of let loose a little bit, didn't we? And that budget on average went up to about £40 because we had to pay for a flight to go from south to the north of Brazil, which didn't help. And that was more expensive than we thought it would be. And then it actually went up. For a time, we were averaging about £53 a day, which still, I mean, come on.
For two people.
For two people, £25 a day. Like, we were not happy with that, and we knew we had to buck up our ideas and get cheaper, which we have done. But because we went over the average then, we're now having to go under the average. So we've now changed our average to £23 a day for both of us.
Yeah, we worked out that with the money we got left and we want to travel for the rest of this year, 2019, then that's what we need to do. And that would last us for the rest of the year. And we've actually been doing very well. Now, places in kind of North South America, like Peru and Ecuador, where we are now, it's cheap. Cheap accommodation, cheap food. So we've been able to smash it, to be honest. We've had days where we've been paying for accommodation, like we weren't couch surfing. We've paid for accommodation, paid for food, even chucked an activity in, and we've spent like £20 or under. So we are actually making up for the money we spent in the first half of the trip. Because like I said before, we're roughly halfway and we're over half of our budget. And so we're halfway through the trip, but we've spent more than half of our money. So that's why we're bucking up our ideas. And actually, we're doing it.
Yeah, we really are. And Ecuador, you'll hear our episode about that. That will be coming out soon. But this place is fantastic. You know, like tomorrow, for example, we're going canyoning. And so that involves, you know, when you're tied to ropes and you're going down a rock face, but while there's a waterfall there and you can do jumps and you slide down waterfalls, all that kind of adventurous stuff. And that's $15 per person. So what's that?
About
like
£12.
And that's incredible. Like, Ecuador is a very cheap place, so I think we've done it the right way where we started our trip in the more expensive places. And yeah, so the south of South America, so Argentina and especially Chile, they're way more expensive than the north. And we know things are only going to get cheaper because we're going into Central America and we've heard it's very cheap there. So I think the route we've taken, so if you are going to be planning a big trip, it's really important to think about the places you want to go and, you know, be as budget as you can, but maybe it's best to start in the more expensive places. The main reason why we did this route was actually based on weather. So we either had the choice to fly to Mexico and then travel all the way down to Brazil, or fly to Brazil and travel all the way up to Mexico. This is the second part of our trip. If some of you have listened to our other episodes, you know we started in Greece and then went through a little bit of the Middle East and all of that. But in terms of South America, that's the route we've taken because we arrived in Brazil, which is the southern hemisphere, in the summer. And then as we're working our way up to the equator, it's turning into winter. But because you're near the equator, it's still warm. And then we're going to be crossing the equator and then it's turning into the summer for the northern hemisphere. So it's kind of been perfect.
A year-long summer, baby.
Yeah. And our weather's been great, hasn't it?
Yeah, we have done well. There's only been a few days I can think of, like I can count on one hand where the weather's been bad and it stopped us from doing things. I know the end of Brazil, it was like the rainy season around March. There was quite a lot of rain, but that is it. Apart from that, it's been brilliant. Amy, you've got a good theory about private rooms in hostels because we've struggled. We have stayed in hostels, but it's normally been a dorm room. We're struggling with private rooms in hostels.
Yeah, not that we don't love hostels. Like, I think they're better than, I don't know, because in South America, it's like you can have a hotel, but it's a bit like a hostel. It's really strange. There isn't that clear difference where in England, if you went to a hotel in comparison to a hostel, like they would be very, very different.
Yes.
But yeah, my theory on this is like private hostel rooms here in South America are so crazy expensive. You'll get a dorm room where you're sharing with like 10 people and say it's $9 a night. They're going to be earning $90 from that room per night. So then when they look at their private rooms, they're only going to have 2 people in it, maybe even 1. They're only going to be earning like $20 out of it. So they bump it up. And so a private room in a hostel is normally about $40, $50. And it's like you cannot be charging those sorts of prices. It's a hostel. It's not even like you're giving all these extra services where, I don't know, there's a spa on the site and stuff like that. It really annoys me. And I think hostels are thinking more about what they can get, how much money they can get out of a room rather than the service they're providing.
Yeah, exactly. Is this room really worth $20 or whatever?
No, $40, $50.
Yeah, you're right, more. And of course, there are exceptions to that rule, obviously. But you're right. In general, we found that hotel rooms are cheaper than hostel private rooms.
Because, like, what are we sitting in now? Is this a hostel or a hotel?
Exactly. It's one of them. It's blurred lines. I know you want it. But it is. There's very blurred lines when it comes to hotels and hostels. I'd say this is a hotel, but it has a hostel common area.
Yeah, but it's just very blurred lines. Like you said, I don't know whether this is a hotel or a hostel. But we've got a private bathroom, our own room. How much should we be spending? I think it's £15.
Yeah, $20, but £15, and it's a nice place, so I'm happy.
It's really nice. And lately we've stayed in a lot of shared bathrooms, which are okay. But, you know, every now and then you're like, I just want to get out of my bed without having to get fully dressed to just go to the toilet.
We have a private bathroom tonight, Amy. This is exciting. And we have somewhere to hang our jackets and hang our towels. But speaking of towels, Amy, someone travelling, do they need to bring a towel?
Yeah, so when you're packing, it might be a thing where you're like, do I really need this? I'd rather take a few more outfits so I can look hot while I'm traveling for the gram.
It's all about the gram.
But we brought travel towels with us. So if you don't know what they are, they're super thin and they dry you really quickly. They're not as nice and cuddly as a normal towel, if I'm honest.
Yeah, they don't feel very good on your skin, do they?
No, it's a bit like you're being polished. You know, if you're polishing something and like polishing a car and you get that leather thing, it's a bit like that, but it dries you really well and it's worth it and it fits in your bag super fine. But I would say at the start of our trip when we were around the Middle East, we needed them quite regularly. But since we've been in South America, which has been about 5.5 months now, I'd say we've needed them a handful of times, maybe 5 times.
Yeah, completely agree. Hostels and hotels have always provided towels, or when we're with a couch surfer, they normally say, do you guys need towels? And we're like, yes, we do. Because I lost my travel towel.
I was just about to say, where's your towel, Nick?
Somewhere in Chile, I think.
Oh.
But it's all right. It's the only thing I've lost, so I'm doing all right.
Okay, this was a point we were going to cover a little bit later, but I feel like I'm just ready to go into Nick now. Right, okay, so our travel budget, you know when I said the days we're averaging £53 a day, I would probably bet that was all going on Nick buying new coats, because since we've been away, he's bought 3 coats because he's lost them. He's lost a towel. He's lost 2 hoodies.
Oh, yeah.
What other things have you lost?
There's definitely something else. I
And
can't think
actually,
now.
Leo, sorry if you're listening. So our Brazilian friend Leo, who we were traveling around with, who is super fun and we love him to bits, he bought a hat in Peru, but then later, like a week later, decided he didn't want it. So he gave it to Nick. And so because Nick loses things all the time and it's a big hat, so it doesn't fit in his bag, he always has to carry it from place to place. I have been waiting so long for Nick to lose this hat because it's just really annoying. Leo, I love you, but with having to carry this round, it doesn't fit anywhere. I'm always carrying it for him. Like, I help Nick pick up his bags, and suddenly I'm always holding his hat, and it's really fucking
You
annoying.
love the hat. It's been useful. You need a hat when you're traveling. If you're in sunny places, it was very useful in the Galapagos Islands, and you needed it. And I said you can only use it if you say, Nick, I love your hat.
Okay, for the 100 days we've been traveling with that hat.
But-
I needed it once. And plus, I have my own hat, which fits in my bag, which is really convenient.
That's true, but you're right. I don't know what it is. I've lost a lot of things. I think when we like check out of a hotel room, I just don't really look and think.
I've just remembered something else. When we was in
Go on.
Chapada Diamantina, you left our camera on the side, and luckily you remembered it.
Well, there you go. I remembered it. So you're welcome. Do you want to say thank you?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I never knew I was this bad at losing things, but I've lost a lot, and it is very frustrating because then you got to use your travel money to buy something else. But at one point, we were just traveling around, and all I had were t-shirts. I had no hoodie, no coat, or anything, which is fine because we're in hot countries. But you can't survive like that. There are times where you always need a hoodie or a coat in the evening. We've been going up to high altitudes. Like Bolivia was absolutely freezing. I think that's where I bought my second coat of the trip, and now in Ecuador, I bought my third coat of the trip.
I've remembered something else. We got off the bus. There's a bag that we call the shoe bag that Nick always carries, and it has our flip-flops and trainers,
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
we're wearing. And you left my shoes on the bus. Like, I'm happy to carry it, but you're always insistent, I'll carry it. And then you left it on the bus. And I think I might have divorced you if you left my trainers on there.
Yeah, we got them back there, didn't we? Because you said, have you got
Because
everything?
I remembered
Yeah,
them.
no, I think you said, have you got everything? I said, yep. And then I went, nope, we haven't. And I ran back on the bus and got it.
That is not how it happened. I said, do you have everything? And you were like, yep. And then I looked at your bags and I was like, where's the shoes? And you were like, they're on the bus. And then you
Okay.
run and got...
Maybe that's what happened. All right, so we're going to move on to another topic now. We're going to talk about budget. I know we've already mentioned it a few times, but let's proper go in.
So we said to you that our budget was £30 a day, and then it averaged about 40, then averaged about 53. We're now averaging £23 a day. I think we did the calculation today. We looked at the money we have and worked out how many days roughly, because we think we're going to be home around Christmas time. So that's another 7 months from now. And we worked out per day what we could be spending, and it's now bumped up to 31. I think we're going to stick to the £23 rule because, you know, it's always good to go home with extra money that we didn't think we would have. So yeah, we're going to stick to £23 a day for both of us. Yeah, that's not each, that's for both of us. Now, Nick, have we stuck to our no tip rule, which we spoke about in the first long-term episode?
Well, we kind of have. There have been times where we've tipped, because I think it was Chile or one of the countries where someone said, like, no, like, you have to tip. If you don't, it means that something has gone horribly wrong with your meal, and like it's really awkward and socially unacceptable. So sometimes we had to through gritted teeth. But generally, yeah, we have stuck to the no tip rule. Again, we're not on holiday, like we don't have money to throw around. It means that when we walk out of restaurants, it's sometimes really awkward and we can never go back there again. You can tell the staff are like so disappointed when we leave. We're like, gracias, ciao, like bye. And they're just like kind of nod, or, you know, they don't even say anything.
It's so uncomfortable. I think I actually do have a really big kind of uncomfortable feeling about this. Even though I had a bit of a rant on the last episode about how I don't agree with it, it does make me uncomfortable. But I still think it goes back to that main principle that I think the business should be paying them the correct amount. You should pay your employees. Like, that's it. Like I said before, you don't tip people doing other jobs. It really annoys me. But because that is the culture, it makes me so uncomfortable walking out. And actually, if we do ever tip, it's normally me that my guilt kind of overrides. And I'm like, Nick, give them some money.
Yeah, so we have done it, but not that much. But you're right. Like, employers, business owners, like, shame on you. Pay your staff a proper wage. We're paying the price you're telling us to pay. If it's $5 on the menu, we pay it. What's the problem? Move on.
There you go.
Oh, I say move on. But yeah, we're not tipping people, but we did pay for someone's taxi.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so we were on a night out, again with our Brazilian friend Leo, and we were with some local Peruvian guys. Was this in Peru? Yeah.
Yeah, Leo's popular with all the boys. It's true.
Yeah, so we were hanging out with these guys in this club, and then 2 of them went home, and one of them stayed with us, not our friend, so we didn't really know him. And we was just kind of there for maybe like 20 minutes more, and then we was like, actually, because we're not all here, like, let's just go home. And then we were walking home, and in Spanish, he just kept telling us how he doesn't know how he's going to get home, and he didn't have any money, and I just felt so uncomfortable. I didn't really know what to say, because we're really not in the position to just be like, here you go, mate, here's $50, you know, like, we can't do that. Anyway, he hailed a taxi down, asked the price, and then just turned to us and said, do you have this money? And I looked at Nick and I was like, do we have this money, Nick?
Please say we don't have this money. I just reached in. I had some notes in my wallet, but I reached in to see what change I had. And I was like, I've got this if you want it. And he just took it. It was like, gracias, like, bye.
I don't even know if he said thank you. Like,
it was a very quiet thank you. Like, gracias, bye.
And I was really shocked. And like, it was just so mental because we'd been talking earlier on in the night. I knew he had a job. He had a job. He was in his own country. He chose to go out for the night. And it wasn't just like a Friday or Saturday night. This was a Wednesday night. He did not need to go out. And so he came out with no money and then asked foreigners to pay for him who don't have jobs to pay for him to get home. I just thought it was really rude. But it was rude because of his attitude, and like, he didn't ever say, oh, I'm so sorry, like, I'm really stuck at the moment, you know, I'll try my best to wire you the money over the internet. None of that.
Nada.
It was just literally took it out of our hands, got out and was like, oh yeah, nice to meet you, kind of thing. I was just stood there with my mouth open. It was more his attitude. I don't mind paying for his taxi if he really is in a hard time, you know, like, yeah, if that means we don't travel for one more day, like, fine, like, we've helped someone out. And the amount of people that have helped us out on this trip, like, we definitely need to give back. But I'd prefer to do that when I'm home and I'm in the position to and I have a job. And when I don't have a job, I don't want to be paying for someone who does have a job in their own country. It's just a bit bizarre.
Yeah, exactly. He probably thought, oh, you're foreign, you've got money. But yeah, the reality is he's got an income. We haven't.
Yeah. It was all a bit weird, but there you go. So we paid for someone's taxi.
We did. Also on budget,
also, can I just say, what really annoyed me as well is that he's getting a taxi, the most expensive type of transport.
Bus, mate.
Get the bus. I'll give you the couple of pounds for the bus. I don't want to give you like a tenner to get the taxi. Like, he was like, oh, I live really far away. That's not my problem. You shouldn't have come out on a Wednesday night.
Correct. Do you want to talk any more about this guy?
Okay, I'm done.
No Friday and Saturday night rule, meaning that just because it's a weekend doesn't mean we have to go out. We've stuck to that, haven't we?
Yeah, I think actually the last time we went out was Peru, right?
Yeah, and like you said, that was a Wednesday.
I've got a question for you. So we've been travelling for just over 8 months. How many days or how many nights do you think we've had a proper night out?
Yeah, not many. You can maybe count on one or two hands. Maybe like 5 or 6 proper nights out. But particularly in Lima, I think we had 2 of them in the space of a week. And after Lima, I was broken. I didn't think I could ever like go out or drink again.
We went out twice in Lima. I don't remember that.
Yeah, we did. Oh no, well, once we went out, the other time was at a couch surfer's house, but that night turned into a wild one.
Yeah, that was really weird. I'd had like 2 glasses of wine and suddenly Nick was necking things from the bottle and getting naked in front of the other couch surfers.
It's true, it happened. You want to host us on couch surfing? If you're a host listening, that's what you get.
I've actually never seen Nick that drunk. It's normally you looking after me because I can't control myself.
He loved it, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a good night. It wasn't like embarrassing.
Yeah,
it was really
next day
funny.
He was texting us saying like, oh, it's so good. And like we only stayed one night and this guy's had like over 200 people stay with him and he gave us a reference saying Nick and Amy were like one of the best couch surfers ever. We're like, really? He must have liked the naked dance. All right, I've got here, because you guys are going to think this just all comes out naturally because we're such great presenters, but I'm reading this script. Well, not word for word, but the next thing it says is reiterate periods. I guess this is your part to speak, not mine.
Yeah, I don't know whether to, I don't know if I have any added information about periods. I think it's all in the first one. Yeah, use a menstrual cup. It saves money, saves the planet, and helps everybody, really. The only awkward thing about it is you have to boil it with hot water. Yeah, you have to boil it to keep it clean because you can't really put soaps on it because of the material. That gets a bit weird. When I walk into someone's kitchen, I'm like, can I boil this thing that's been up my vagina?
Yeah, that's what we use to cook our food, so I'm going to say no.
But yeah,
Something related to periods and vaginas. Eating out. That's what it says here. Eating out. I guess I guess you're following on from periods.
I can't see it.
Oh yeah, Peru cheaper to eat out. Okay, let's move on. Something I'm going to mention now is a little tease for future episodes. We managed to do Machu Picchu and the Uyuni Salt Flats in Bolivia. We managed to do them both for very cheap because those two things can be very expensive. It's on the topic of budget. We did them very cheap, but we are going to go into that when we talk about the Salt Flats. Will obviously be on our Bolivia episode, but we probably won't be doing another Peru episode because we've already done that. That was episode 2 of series 1. So we won't be doing a Peru episode, probably. Maybe not. But we will definitely do an episode dedicated to Machu Picchu and how to do it for cheap. So that will be a mini episode coming up.
Okay, next topic, pace of travel. Now, when you heard the first episode of long-term travel, I was saying that my anxiety got quite bad because at the start, if we stayed in an accommodation and didn't go out or use the day properly, I used to get really anxious and I thought, we're wasting money because we've paid to stay here, yet we're not doing anything. But now we've been going for over 8 months now. It's so important to have your down days. And even then, I don't think we've ever just had a day in bed watching Netflix and eating. Our down days is doing work, doing podcast work. Like today, we're having a down day. So we're sitting on the bed, we're recording. And then after this, I might do a bit of editing and things like that. So we are still making use of the day. I think, we've never had a day just in bed unless we were ill. And that's not nice for anyone, is it?
Yeah, so most of the time we're always doing stuff, but we're not really exhausting ourselves. I'm happy to have some down days, like you said today. And actually, a few days ago, in a city called Cuenca in Ecuador, we actually spent 3 straight days just catching up on work because we'd just been in the Galapagos Islands with no internet. So we got back and we had a lot to do because I guess it's kind of related to budget. To help our budget go further, we've actually been able to take on some podcast work. So not only are we editing this, we're also editing other people's podcasts and earning money that way. We've been able to do that through some freelancer websites. So that's been really useful. We're earning a bit, we're not earning the same as what we're spending. So it's not going to keep the chip going forever, but it's going to help. Anyone listening out there, if you do need something, it's like an advert now. If you need something editing, that is what we're doing now. So we spent 3 days catching up on a load of work, our own and other people's. And even though it was work, after those 3 days, weirdly, I felt quite rested, ready to go out and do more travel activities.
Yeah, so we've been going for over 8 months now. And do you feel tired?
No, I feel good. This is normal life now. I feel really good, actually, yeah.
In fact, I feel like I've got more life in me than we did the last time we spoke about this, which was 2.5 months. I think it took a while for us to get into this rhythm where it's not just traveling. This is a way of life now. But 8 months on, my wanderlust is stronger than ever. I thought this would really calm me down and feel like, okay, I'm seeing the world. This is what I want. But it's just giving me more and more wanderlust. I just want to travel more now. And it's just creating more hunger, which is a bit scary, but really cool at the same time.
Yeah, we're already planning other trips because, like you said, we think around Christmas we'll be home. And it'll be lovely to be home, see people, see friends and family, eat a few, eat some food from home that we haven't been able to eat. But we're worried about going home. We don't want to go home. And we're already thinking about future trips.
Yeah. So we've got about 7 months left. And I would say I'm not tired. I'd say my feet are a bit tired because the bottom of them are... Because we're wearing flip-flops every day.
Feet get filth, didn't they?
Yeah. So I had to have a pedicure yesterday, which was the first time I've kind of treated myself in a really long time. It wasn't like spending money that was a necessity. This was something that I was indulging in, and I'm a bit annoyed because it would cost $10, which is cheap for a pedicure, I'll give you that, but
your feet still look rank.
They look the same. No, yours look worse, mate.
Oh, mine are terrible, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, she helped the skin that's gone a bit hard, but I mean my feet are kind of peeling a little bit on the bottom, so
cool story, bro.
Yeah. You love being married to me, don't you?
Yeah, of course I do.
Do you still fancy me?
Yeah, for sure, more.
Okay.
You travel agrees with you for sure.
Okay.
I don't care about your skanky feet. So also talking about pace, on average I say we are staying for 3 days in one place. When we were in Brazil, we were quite restricted with time because we knew we wanted to end our trip with Carnival. So if we're staying somewhere and we're thinking, but Carnival's in not for another month or two, we have to go slow. So we went quite slow in Brazil, but since Brazil and in the more expensive countries like maybe Argentina, but particularly Chile, we sped through them, didn't we? We were going much quicker pace. I feel like now in Ecuador we slowed down. There's a lot to see here, but I'm also enjoying going a bit slower. But we are speeding up. But yeah, in the expensive places, Chile, we just thought, get in, do what we need to do, and get out. But you guys heard us talk about that in our Chile episode, which I'm sure you'll agree was a great first episode of the series. Wow, we are bloody brilliant.
What's it called when you blow your own trumpet? So we met a guy called Tim. Hi, Tim. We met him in
Bonjour.
A uni?
No, first met him in Chile.
Oh, in Chile, in the Atacama Desert. And he had listened to our episode and he was like, guys, what does blow your trumpet mean?
Oh, yeah, he's from France. And he said, yeah, you use a lot of English like phrases. And I'm sure we do, but soz.
Yeah, we don't realise we're doing it. But blowing your own trumpet means saying something like kind of bragging and saying...
Like self-fellatio.
Yeah. Why did I say yes? It's like saying something really good about yourself.
Yeah, blow your own trumpet. Correct.
I've been saying regularly on this trip that travel ruins travel. And what I mean by that is that if you've done one activity and then you have the opportunity to do it again, it's just not going to be as good, is it? That's kind of natural. The more you do something, the less exciting it gets, like having sex with Nick.
Wow, yes, I would actually agree.
That just came out of my head. I just thought that would go well.
That was a good one.
So travel ruins travel. And a good example of this is we did a trip a few years ago in Morocco where we went to the Sahara Desert and we went to a festival. It was amazing. I mean, at one point I was doing yoga in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and that was incredible. And then here in South America, we've had many chances to go on sand dunes, and it's all been brilliant. But then kind of like the sixth time we got to a place where they had sand dunes was Huacachina in Peru. And I don't think this was totally that we'd done it before, but a lot of people rave about Huacachina, and because it's kind of like a party town. It's an oasis in the middle of some sand dunes. It's just like this pool of water, which probably is man-made, if we're honest.
Maybe. I like to think it's natural, but it smelt like it was natural. It did stink.
Yeah. Well, the whole town kind of stank. There was plastic and rubbish everywhere in the sand dunes. Like walking up the sand dunes, it really made our feet dirty.
Yeah, a lot of the sand
we shouldn't do that.
A lot of the sand was kind of black, wasn't it, with like pollution.
Yeah, and that wasn't just black sand. It was definitely dirt. It really wasn't very nice. But that's kind of like the worst one, really. But it's just kind of, like tomorrow we might go zip lining as well. And we've done zip lining before. I would like to do it again. But it's never going to be like your first time.
Like your first time with Nick. So because we spoke to someone who really liked Huacachina, but they'd never been to sand dunes before, so I get that. So the point Amy's trying to make is that I get why it would be special. They did look cool, just we've seen better ones, all right? So travel can ruin travel in a weird way, but as we said earlier, we want to keep going. There's a whole world to see. We want to see it all. There's too much to see, if anything, but that's a good thing. If you'd seen it all by the time you're 25, that'd be boring, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Let's talk about traveling as a couple.
Yes. Exciting, right? Me.
Absolutely. I think it's all right, isn't it? I actually feel better now than I did towards the start, because I think it's just adjusting and changing, isn't it? Especially when we did the last long-term episode. I think it was around Turkey that we felt we needed a little bit of space, so I went to a spa, you went to a football game, but I haven't felt like that for a really long time now.
Great, because I never really felt like that. But yeah, it seems normal now that we're around each other. It is healthy to do your own thing, but I never felt like I had to get away. But yeah, a few times on this trip, I've been to 2 or 3 football games, and like you came to one, Santos in Brazil, didn't you? But another one you didn't come to. So we have done some stuff separate, but really, like 99 times out of 100, we've been together all day, every day. And it just seems normal now, doesn't it? So when we do, or if we eventually go home and get normal jobs, which I hope will never happen, it'll be weird, like 9 to 5, not seeing you.
Yeah, it would be really weird. And like I think I've kind of gone a 360 really, or 180.
180.
180. Because like yesterday when I got the pedicure, I was like, Nick, can you come with me? I don't want to go on my own. I think it was more, I don't know why, I just felt a little bit anxious yesterday. And so I didn't really want to be in there on my own. And I was just a bit shy with the woman talking to me. I don't know why, because I love talking to people and being sociable, but I just had one of those days.
You're a little bit shy sometimes, didn't you?
Yeah. And also, we're waiting for your driving license to arrive here. Long story.
Let's not go into
He didn't
that.
lose it, but long story, he hasn't got his driving license. So we're waiting for it to be posted here. But we are potentially going to be doing some motorbike driving in Colombia when we get there. And if he doesn't have his license, it's something I really, really, really want to do. And you've said, oh, but if I can't do it, you can go on your own. And that just makes me feel really sad because I'm so used to having all these incredible experiences with you. Because it's something I really want to do, I know I'm going to have such a great time and I want to share that with you. So, yeah, I've kind of taken a 180 and I want to be with you all the time still.
That's nice. But yeah, because you would do the bike more than I do, really. So if I miss out, fine. But I know what you're like, because if you do it and like you really enjoy it, you'll be coming back and saying, it was so good, we did this, we did that, blah, blah, blah. But because I wasn't there, I can't appreciate it. But you'll keep going, you'll keep want to tell me, you'll keep trying to like drive the point home. But it was really good, it was this. I'm like, I'm sure it was, but like it's all the same when you go somewhere on holiday and you come home and people say, how was it? It was great. And they're like, oh, great. But that's it, because there's no point explaining it because they weren't there. They don't know. So that's a bit where you're coming from. If I'm there with you, I know how great it was. But if I'm not, you'll want to explain it to me. But
I want you to have the feeling that I have.
Exactly. Yeah. But that comes from a very nice place. I would always rather share experiences with you. An experience shared is an experience doubled. Is that the same?
Yeah, well, I think it's all about problem, isn't it? Problem shared, problem halved.
Yeah. And moving on, we think that travel really has changed us, but like not in the way some people might be thinking, oh, I've found myself, I've changed. It actually has changed the way like we think about stuff. Definitely money. Like I look at people, how we used to be, and just think the way people spend money is crazy. But, that's because of the way we're living. But also, not just money, even like in some environmental issues. Amy.
Yeah, for sure. So plastic and environment. So I know we're getting a lot of this sort of content on social media at the moment, but it really is droning in. And we haven't got like a friend with us that's constantly telling us you shouldn't use that, you shouldn't use that. But I'm just so aware of the plastic that we're using now. For example, the other day we were at the supermarket and we had only a few items and the guy at the cashier had put it in 3 different separate plastic bags. And I said in Spanish, like, we don't need those. Like, let's put it all. And I know what he was doing because he was separating the food with the toiletries. But our toiletries were only toothbrushes and toothpaste, which is in a plastic tube itself within a box. So it doesn't then need to be in a plastic bag in a different plastic bag. I just thought this is just too much. Like, it's not going to leak. Put it in the same bag. It really is starting to bother me.
Yeah, and I think the more you see of the world, you see these amazing places and you think, oh, like, I want to look after it more. I'm appreciating it more. So that's just naturally happened. Yeah, no one's been preaching to us. Also, meat. I mean, we're still meat eaters, but we're eating a lot less because everyone should really. It's not sustainable. Like, the industry's pretty bad, to be honest. But also, I must admit, from a point of cost, meat's expensive. The amount of times we've cooked rice, like beans and vegetables, just because it's cheap, healthy but cheap, so we're not doing it all because we're great people. It's cost as well. But I will make the exception when it comes to meat. At the moment in Ecuador, they're very good at pork. It's called hornado, like roasted pork, a bit like a hog roast, and I've got to admit, it's bloody delicious.
Yeah, it is really good. Like, I'd say before we came on this travel trip, we were meat eaters 100% of the time.
Every day.
With an English breakfast, you can have sausage and bacon. So sometimes I would eat 3 times a day, which now I feel a bit like, I'm not judging anyone else that does do that, but looking at myself, I just feel a bit like, oh my God, I didn't even think that I was, or notice that I was eating 3 times a day, where now I'm just very aware of it. If we ever cook ourselves, like you said, because of cost as well, for me, it's more than cost, but yeah, if we're cooking ourselves, we'll definitely not eat meat. And I'd say now we eat meat 30% of the time.
So that's changed, and I think that will continue to change when we get home. Like I've said, we think differently about money, so we'll be not like tight, but just spending our money on things that actually matter and things we actually enjoy, rather than thinking we have to pay for this. We have to go out every weekend for a meal. Well, you don't have to. It was just about habit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But a habit of mine... See what I did there? Habit of mine that's changed. I I'm not afraid to admit I have become completely shameless when it comes to like accepting things. Whereas before I would be like, nah, don't pay for that. Don't worry, I've got it, mate. I am now completely shameless because we think differently about money. If someone offers something, I'm like, yeah, okay, thank you so much. Or like a couple of our friends we spoke to recently have said, oh, when you're back, if you want to, we're thinking of renting this house down in Cornwall, a part of England. You're welcome to come if you want to. There'll be a spare room. And I'm like, yep. Give us the address and the date, and we are there. Thank you for the kind offer. And they might have been saying it just to be polite, but I'll accept that. I'll take that. I'm shameless.
Basically, what you're saying is you're like the guy who we paid the taxi for.
I wouldn't ask for it, but if someone offered it, I'd gladly take it.
Okay.
That's the difference.
And I think, I know you're kind of joking, but you'll always pay your way. So if someone gave us free accommodation or let us stay in their room, then we would buy them some food or we'd take them out to dinner and things like that. There's always, you don't have to pay it back completely the same way, but you can do other things to make up for it.
Don't get me wrong, we'll be paying that back. Like when we are more settled at home with full-time jobs, absolutely, I'll be even more generous than I was before.
Yeah. We have definitely invited almost everyone we've met on this whole trip back to our house.
We owe people around the world who we've stayed with. We owe them so much. When they come to visit us, like in England, London, it's going to be so expensive.
So the podcast will then stop at that point because we'll be broke.
That's right.
We might have mentioned this on our last episode, but kind of life at home versus travel life. And we kind of touched on it earlier, what are the positives and negatives to this?
Yeah, like having your own space at home is great. We wanted to come traveling because we got bored of all the home comforts, but it is great. And just, be able to have access 24/7 to a washing machine to wash our clothes. That sounds like a dream right now. Baked beans. You've been dreaming about baked beans, haven't you?
I think the only thing I miss, like products from home, is baked beans, really. I really want baked beans on toast with melted cheese.
Oh, come on. That's the best.
That's going to be my first meal when I get home. And while we're talking about homesickness, still close to friends and family, would you say?
There's actually one more thing I want to mention quickly,
okay.
Amy.
Yeah.
We will get to that, but I need to have a word with... I spoke about clean clothes. We're on the kind of hygiene issue. Other travellers. Now, when we're travelling around, like on local buses and stuff, the local people are fine. It's other travellers, and I'm quite ashamed of our travel community. I just think that there's no excuse these days not to have... I'd say, okay, maybe a shower, like once every 2 days, okay, when you're travelling, overnight buses. Don't get me wrong, we've stunk at times, but we've always, when we've got the opportunity, we have a shower. And when you're sat next to someone that stinks, it's not a nice experience, and it's always other travellers. One nation in particular. I'm not going to name who they are, but we all know who I'm talking about, which means I'm right. Come on, other travellers, just think a bit more about your personal hygiene. It's not difficult. There are showers available in all hostels, good and bad.
There is no excuse to smell that bad. And when we say that bad, like these people are wearing clothes that haven't been washed for weeks and they haven't showered for at least 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, and this is men and women. No, we're not targeting any gender here. We might be targeting one nation. But come on, people. I know all you travellers, you might be on your gap year, but you can still have some standards from back home.
There you go.
Right, let's move on to homesickness, as you were saying, Amy.
Yeah, would you say we're still just as close with friends and family?
There are some friends that we're staying in touch with. Like me, a lot of my guy mates from home who I went to school with, the occasional text every now and then, but is it different for guys and girls? Am I being sexist? I don't think we need to talk that much. They can see what I'm doing on Instagram. I know I'm going to see them when we get home. There are some joint friends of ours who we have a few Skype sessions with. So we are talking to people. The way I see it is that, like, yeah, I miss people from home, but those friendships, they're on hold almost. And I know when we get home, they'll start again from where we left off. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I feel a bit different because, I've been staying really close with my friends, particularly Beth and Adam. Shout out to you guys. And I said it on the last episode. I'm Robin, sorry. And on the last episode I explained about how I use the app Marco Polo, which is a bit like Snapchat. You send videos back and forth. But actually, I mean, I was close with Adam's my best friend. I was close with him before. But Beth, these are people from work as well. They're work colleagues. But I'd say me and Beth were close before, but I'd say we've got even closer now. Like, we talk all the time, almost daily, constantly talking. And she's going on tons of holidays herself. So, it's nice to see her traveling the world. So, yeah, it's been really nice to stay in touch. And yeah, like I said, with Robin as well, it's been really, really great. And I think it's just kind of strengthened my relationships, because when you do leave, that could easily break down a relationship where you don't talk as much. And because we are talking the same, if not more, it's actually just made us think like, wow, like this really is a true friendship.
We actually like each other. Yeah, but you're right. You are talking to people more than maybe you would do back home, which is nice. I just do want to add in, like, I speak to my parents quite a lot, actually. And yeah, of course, I'm looking forward to seeing them and my sister. We have stayed in touch a lot. My sister's having a bloody baby while we're away.
Oh my goodness.
We didn't know about that before we came away travelling.
We're going to be an aunt and uncle.
Aunt and uncle, Amy and Nick. I don't know if the day will ever come when we have our own child, but auntie and uncle is good for now. By the time we get home, I think our niece or nephew will be 3 months old, 2 or 3, so we won't be there for the birth. It's just timing of the trip, but that is going to be exciting. So there are lots of good reasons to go home.
Yeah, and the other cool thing about this trip is we've had a few people visit us. So since we did our last long-term episode, I feel like I'm saying that so much in this episode, but since we last did that,
Did we do one before this?
Good one, yeah.
Wait.
Banter. We had people visit us in Portugal. So your auntie and uncle and cousins came out, your mum came out, and then my friend Adam came out.
Yes.
All in the same place. So we spent about 2 weeks in Lisbon, and it was great to have people. And that was only like 3 months in, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that felt like we'd been home a little bit, so that was really nice. And also more recently in Lima in Peru, she didn't come all the way just to see us, but a friend from home, Sophie, she was doing a trip in Peru anyway, and we managed to make it work that we could meet in Lima. And yeah, just seeing familiar faces from home is really nice when you've been away for so long.
Yeah, and I would say I'm definitely not homesick, but as soon as I saw Sophie and we started talking, I just turned to her at one point and said, I can't believe how nice it is to talk to somebody that A, is my native language, so you can just talk at speed, you know, your natural speed. You don't have to slow down or talk another language. It was just nice and refreshing. I love speaking other languages, and don't get me wrong, talking to local people is my favourite thing about travelling, but to have that little break of somebody that speaks my language and also knows the same people as us, and we could have a really good catch up with, I was surprised how much it felt really nice.
Really nice, totally. And you don't have to have the same conversation over and over again. What's your trip? Where are you coming from? Where are you from?
Yeah.
We're from England. We're travelling for this much time. Blah, 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 blah. So it was nice, to have a normal home conversation.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, thanks to everybody that's visited us. We really do appreciate it.
It's been lovely. And Becky Lovelock, if you're listening, you better be coming Mexico. We've agreed this now. It's a verbal contract.
Well, Adam and Iris as well.
Yeah, they're coming.
They're coming.
But he's more reliable, I think. I think he's going to come. Becky, you better not just be chatting. You better not just be, all mouth. We're seeing you in Mexico. Otherwise, friendship over.
There you go. You've been sold.
So something else we want to talk about briefly. We have mentioned before that this whole trip is not just us traveling. It kind of is a career move. It's, it's us doing this podcast full time, trying to grow it, trying to make this into our job, or maybe it leads to something else, just something that involves us doing traveling. If we can, if our life can be working and traveling, then that's the dream.
And we mentioned starting a YouTube channel.
Yeah, exactly. So we mentioned earlier, we have been taking on work. We've been editing other people's podcasts. This, what we're doing now is growing. We're starting to collaborate a bit more with companies, which means we can do stuff with them, which can extend our trip as well. So we are trying, and I think it's working. We are trying to turn this into a job, and you guys are all there along with the journey with us. You've been there since the beginning, and we're very honest with you about what we're trying to do with this podcast. It's mostly having fun, entertaining you guys, but we do want to make this our job as well. But I feel like we're getting there.
Yeah, we've cracked it a little bit because we are traveling with our savings, but we're also earning money from editing. So we're working and traveling, which is just kind of the dream, really, isn't it? And we wanted to bring this up to give you that advice that, so many people and influencers online give you this package that you can pay for where it's £1,000 a lesson and they'll teach you how to get paid to travel. And don't get me wrong, I've never paid for that, so I don't know exactly what they're offering, and maybe they are offering something great, but I think ultimately the advice is to capitalize on your skills. So for us, that's audio and editing and voice work. So that's something we can do. As long as we have Wi-Fi, we can communicate with customers and we can download the audio, work on it and send it back. And You just need to look at yourself and think, if this is something you want to do, you want to travel full time and earn money at the same time, then what skills do you have that you can use online? Or even if that is, you can go from town to town. If you're a builder, I don't know, I don't know anything about the industry, but you might be able to pick up building work along the way.
Yeah, barber, tattooist.
Yeah, just pick up those skills and look at, kind of reinvent yourself and modernize it and think, yeah, traditional business, you have to stay in the same place, build up your client base, but that's not how the world works anymore. You know, you can move around. So just a bit of advice. If this is something you want to do, the first thing is to look at your skills. What can you do and what can you offer people when you're traveling?
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. You know, just focus on doing what you enjoy and what you're good at, and the rest should follow. Yeah, I think these people that offer these courses, pay me this and I'll teach you how to have a successful business, because it's not just influencers like travel people. It happens in the business world. I've been to conferences where you watch these like business gurus who give you lessons, and I'm thinking, if you're so much of a business guru, you'd be too busy running your business to be here right now.
Yeah, you're being paid to be here.
You're taking advantage of people who believe there's a quick fix. Come on my course and you'll have a great life.
You'll be a millionaire.
Yeah, and I think everyone's story is different. There's no one formula to become a travel YouTuber. Everyone has had a different journey and everyone's got something different to offer. So what works for some people, it's not going to work for someone else.
There you go. Next topic is anxiety, better or worse? Well, I'm asking myself that because you don't have anxiety, because you're lucky. I'd actually say it's got better, you know.
Yeah.
I think anxiety gets better with patterns and knowing what's going to happen. Well, for me especially anyway, like at home, because I had a pattern, it wasn't that bad. So when we first came away, it was a bit of a shock and I was like, wow, I feel anxious all the time. Why can't I calm down? But if this makes any sense, I've kind of got a pattern of spontaneity now. So going to the next hostel or going to the next place or not knowing where we're going or just going to the bus station, not knowing if we'll be able to buy the ticket for that day. Because we're doing that so regularly, it's becoming a pattern, so it's not making me anxious anymore.
Yeah, and that's probably the best way to tackle most things. They always say, like, by facing your fears, you won't be scared of it anymore. So, you know, if you are anxious about the unknown, then do the unknown as much as possible, and then it will become normal. Problem solved.
Yeah, so
I agree. Your anxiety has got much better.
Yeah, if anybody is listening to this and has severe or mild anxiety and that's kind of something that's stopping you from traveling, I couldn't say any more that you need to just go out and do it, because otherwise you're letting anxiety win. And honestly, it helps your mental health, because by the time you get home, you would have grown so much as a person. Because I said to you the other day, how different are we from our first day of this trip in Santorini? I can't believe how different we are. We've grown so much, and where before I thought we were kind of expert travelers, where now I think, wow, like we didn't really know
we
as
knew
much.
Nothing.
Yeah, we were idiots.
Yeah, and you guys all took our advice in series 1 and series 2.
So joke's on you.
Scrap everything we told you in series 1 and series 2.
But yeah, I just think don't let it win, and if it's something you want to do, go out and do it. That doesn't even just apply to traveling, you know, it's anything.
Yes, and you'll still have good and bad days, but by being at home anxious and sad, you're having a bad day anyway. So you might as well get out there and explore the world.
Have a bad day in Ecuador.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of advice, which doesn't link to anything else that we've said. We flew to South America on Christmas Day because the flights were a bit cheaper, weren't they?
Was it worth it? I'm asking myself that because I'm going to answer. I think it was. Basically, yeah, I think it was worth it. It was cheap, and we were just sat on a plane watching TV, eating food, same as being at home at Christmas. Christmas Day, I think, when you're traveling, is rubbish because everything's closed. You're not with friends and family. And actually, I thought the problem would be getting to and from the airport, but we were in Lisbon. The metro, the underground was working. It cost us like £1 or £2 to get to the airport. When we got to the other side in Sao Paulo, when we landed on Christmas Day, again, the metro was working. We didn't have any Brazilian money on us, and a very kind Brazilian person actually paid for our train.
So we're like the taxi guy.
So actually, we got to the airport in Lisbon and from the airport in Brazil to our friend's house for like £1 or £2 on Christmas Day.
Yeah, and we had a cheaper flight. I was a bit surprised on the flight that there was nothing different or Christmassy about it, though. I thought at least
never know, it's Christmas.
I thought at least they'd give us like little crackers or something to open.
Yeah, come on, make the effort.
Like, come on, give me a present, give me an iPad or something.
Yeah. But apart from that, yeah, it was pretty decent, I think.
Yeah, if you've got that choice to fly on that day and it is considerably cheaper, then
Just
go for it.
Do it. Now, maybe something Amy doesn't want to talk about, but when we get home, it's a bit scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Again, there'll be good things and there'll be bad things when we get home.
Can I just say, when people say, oh God, are you were you really scared when you left and quit your job to go traveling? I'm like, nah.
Nope.
Like, that sounds hella fun to me.
Hella.
I get that fear when I think about going home. So I think I'm kind of the opposite there. I'm nervous to go home. Obviously, I want to see friends and family and eat baked beans on toast with cheese. But I'm nervous.
Yeah, man.
Imagine if we don't know what we're doing when we get home, if we're going to then go off again or carry on this editing business. I don't know. But if we both go to separate jobs, working a 9 till 5, I think I'm going to be seriously mentally unhappy.
It's going to be depressing.
It's going to be hard.
And I know we're talking about people listening are thinking, that's what I do anyway. We know that's normal life. We've done it. We've been there for 10 years doing that. We just don't want to go back to it.
Well, yeah, it's the same with anything, isn't it? When you have something that's even better, you don't want to go back to the old thing, do you?
But like I said, hopefully we can turn this whole thing into a job. And, my dream scenario, I'm always honest with you guys, would be to go home for a few weeks, see everyone, and then hopefully be off again.
We got some plans. We got some plans of how we could do that, but we don't know if that's going to materialise.
Exactly.
Anyway, you said about getting home. What were you going to say?
So there's two things. We know that we're going to have cravings, or we're going to be wanting to cook like exotic food. Our friends, we might be hanging out with friends and they might say, I could really do with a pizza. And we'll be like, yeah, I could really do with some choripan.
Or choriana.
Feijoada or choriana. And they'll be like, what the fuck?
Or a priena de papa.
Exactly,
Or
standard,
hornado.
standard food, but we won't be able to get it. So, I mean, it's not a big problem, but that'll be a little bit annoying. A bit like how we feel now with baked beans. But also, we're very used... I'm going to talk about toilets again.
Oh, you're starting and ending the podcast about pooing.
Exactly. It's like a poo sandwich. No, wait, that means the poo's in the middle. I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's like a bread poo sandwich.
Exactly. So, we are very used to putting toilet paper in the bin now. It just seems normal. I know it's going to happen. We're going to come home. We'll probably be staying at, my parents for a bit or friends. And they'll come to us and say, Nick and Amy, why is your shitty paper in my bin? And we'll be like, what do you mean? So obviously we're completely used to not putting paper down the toilet.
I feel like you need to explain, because some people listening to this might have never been travelling before. So if you live in a country where you can put toilet paper down the toilet, that's because you have a very good sewage system. But almost all of South America
And the Middle East,
you have to put it in a bin so they can then send it to the dump or wherever. They put the dump in the dump.
Way. But I think that's worse. There's mountains of shitty paper somewhere in the world. What do they do with it all?
Well, I guess it goes with all the other rubbish, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's depressing, isn't it?
Mm.
Anyway,
that's it for the long-term episode. 8 months in.
Let's leave a shit paper mountain in your head while we say goodbye.
But yes, we will be doing one more long-term episode, and that will be at the end of our trip. We'll tell you how it's gone, how much debt we're in, because by that point we might have gone into the credit cards, and Nick will then have to do another episode about his credit card debt.
Bring the credit card debt back. It's fine. I'm experienced in that field. It's no problem. But yeah, and then, we'll be able to tell you guys if we're happy to be home or not, and yeah, it'll be interesting.
I thought we'd record it in like our last month, but maybe we should record it when we're home.
Yeah, so we can tell people what it's like to be home.
How depressing. We'll leave you on that note. So, good luck.
Sorry for us, because one day we have to stop having fun and stop travelling.
First world problems. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed the episode and that's given you some good advice. Please get in touch with us on social media, Instagram, Twitter or Facebook or our website, and let us know if this is something that you're going to do, because we'd love to hear from you. And, if there's anything you think we've missed, let us know and we can always include it on the next one.
Please tell us. You guys are legends. Thanks so much for listening. And also, I don't think we say this enough. Thank you for everyone who's a patron and really supporting what we're doing. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.
Don't forget, you can get in touch with the show. You can email us at whatthefauxpodcast@gmail.com. We are also on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and we are also on Patreon. For more information on all those things, you can go to our website at www.whatthefauxtravelpodcast.com.